Check, check. I feel like nobody can hear me. There's no way anybody's hearing me. What if my mic is turned off? Because that would be kind of pointless if they couldn't hear us. I feel like it is supposed to be the crest on. That's crazy how when I closed it, it like went all slow. Sorry, everybody. I should have like give this a good test before instead of playing around with that stupid plugin. I don't think it's working. Can anybody get on the YouTube channel and see if it's working? I feel like it's not. Usually that thing down there is moving. And if it's not working, I'm probably not going to spend too much time trying to get it to work. In fact, let's see me now. Yeah. I have a feeling it's going to work now. I think. I don't know. We'll see. If somebody can jump on there and confirm, that'd be great. All right. What was I getting into? Oh, for all the people that are new, basically the way this group works is we got an admin meetup every month and a dev meetup every month. So you guys are all here for the admin stuff. We're talking about marketing stuff, and like usually admin talks are like plugins you can install or like anything you can do from the admin that doesn't involve programming. But then we also have dev meetups for all the programmers like me, where we get to talk about all the ways we can hack WordPress and, you know, create custom plugins and custom themes and all that stuff. So if you're interested in both, I recommend keeping your eye out for the dev ones. And then also, obviously, if you're not interested in development, I recommend you probably don't show up for the dev one unless you want to learn some development. Then by all means, you're more than welcome. But we split them up this way so the people that show up, you know, to just a meetup because it's a meetup kind of know what they're getting into before they show up. Also, we're kicking around an idea. Well, before we get into it, is there anybody here that just came just because they just heard about the meetup and they're just at this one because this is the next one that happened? How many people fall into that category? No, you guys are all here for this specific topic. See, I kind of figured that'd be the case for some of you. So what I'm starting to notice, like this pattern, because I've been leading this for like a couple years now, is that a lot of people just want help with their WordPress site, and they come to this hoping they can find somebody to help them with it, and they probably aren't even really interested in the topic that we're talking about anyway. They just want to see how many people are here that know about WordPress. So what we're thinking about doing is allowing organizers to set up a Calendly system through the website. And I know you guys probably don't know what Calendly means, but basically it'll be so that you can go on our website, find different people that organize WP Omaha and what their specialties are, and be able to book like one-on-one Google Hangout meetings with them to get one-on-one help with whatever it is you need help with that has to do with WordPress, essentially. And each organizer would be able to dictate however much they want to charge as far as an hourly rate or whatever for that one-on-one help. And so that kind of does a couple things. It gives people that need help a place to go get help from somebody local, and also organizers get a little bit of kickback for being an organizer and contributing their time to the group, because most of the times, well, unfortunately, the organizers are the ones giving the talks, because most people, especially people that just found out about us, don't know what the heck to come talk about or anything. So also, with that said, let me also show off something else that's super important. If you would like to speak, and don't get confused, this is an open group, so don't be intimidated by the fact that I know way too much about WordPress. You don't have to know a lot about WordPress to do a talk at WP Omaha. We totally welcome anybody that has at least an intermediate amount of experience with anything that has to do with WordPress to come lead a talk if they would like to do that. So if you would like to speak in the future about whatever you think you know a little bit about, you can go on here and request to speak, and then there's a form, and you fill the form out and submit it, and then it comes to us, and then usually we'll just accept you if it's, as long as it's a topic that we haven't talked about recently, obviously, because we don't want to talk about the same things over and over every month. So by all means, please, if you're interested in speaking for this group, do that. Did anybody go check the YouTube thing? Is this working? Audio's there? Awesome. Okay, and then on another note, kind of here, if you don't want to speak, but you just have a topic in particular that you would like somebody to talk about, like that's what our job is as organizers, is to organize the meetups and figure out what the topic is going to be for the upcoming meetups. And so if you have a specific topic that you would like to hear somebody that knows what they're talking about talk about, you can just go to this form and fill this form out and tell us what it is that you want to hear a talk about, and we would be more than happy to try. Well, maybe one of us organizers already know a lot about that, so maybe we could lead the talk about that, or we could find somebody in the community that knows enough to lead a talk about whatever that topic is. Cool. So that's kind of like, we're trying to find more ways to get non-organizers involved in the process of making this stuff happen, because I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work to organize this group. And lately the organizer situation has been, let's just call it flexible. So yeah, although we do have some hardcore, solid people on the organizer team, but yeah, we need some better stuff going on. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be the lead organizer of this group. Probably at least through the end of August or September, and then we're kind of playing it by ear from there, because I've been doing this for a long time. So not that I don't love you guys, it's great, but I have a life too, and I've done a lot to grow this group. So I did what I wanted to do, which was make the local community better, yeah, hopefully somebody else can pick up the reins and do that even more after me eventually. Yeah, no worries, I'll be doing this for another probably 6 months or so. How many people actually just got done? I see some faces. Raise your hand if you just finished the HTML and CSS workshop series. Awesome, 3 of you, yeah. Feedback, you guys like that? You guys learn a lot there? We'll be doing another workshop series this summer on JavaScript. So if you want to learn JavaScript, and these are designed for beginners. So the idea is to get actually people like you that don't know a lot about programming yet, but would like to know more because you think it would make you more powerful with WordPress. That's why we do these workshop series. So we're doing a JavaScript one in the summer. Keep your ear out for that. And then in the fall, we'll do a PHP one for plugin development and theme development, stuff like that. We'll get really into all that. And you will need to know a little bit about each one as it kind of progresses. That's why we organize it that way. So you do need to know some HTML and CSS to do JavaScript and PHP. And to do the PHP stuff, it helps to know some JavaScript and some HTML and some CSS. So the idea is to try and do them all, but it's not super required. Even if you have very basic fundamental knowledge of HTML and CSS, you can take the PHP workshop. And if you have more questions about the workshop, talk to me, or workshops, the series of them, you can talk to me after this. And we're going to have probably an extensive Q&A at the end of this too, so you're welcome to ask anything about WordPress in particular during that Q&A, although I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions specifically about social media and online marketing, because that's what we're here to talk about. Cool. Any questions about the group, especially the first-timers? So yeah, twice a week. We try the developer ones, we try to do every month. So sometimes the development ones don't happen every month, but the admin ones most certainly happen every month, and they're always here. And thanks to Agape Red for always sponsoring us and getting us some Jimmy Johns. So if you come to the admin ones and you're down with some Jimmy Johns, you can always rely on some Jimmy Johns being here. Thanks to Agape Red, a sponsor of our group, and also thanks to DoSpace, who is also a sponsor of our group, and Flywheel, who is also a sponsor of our group, because they give us free hosting for this website that we lead the group through. All right, I've killed enough time. Now that Dylan showed up, we can get started. Dylan is another organizer. And then just so you guys all know, Zach is also an organizer as well. And so we kind of keep this train moving for you guys, and hopefully you get something out of this. Please feel free to rate the meetup on meetup.com afterwards and all that good jazz. Cool. No questions about any of that? We good? I'm going to get up and talk a little later after Zach about some of my experience doing, driving traffic using social media to WordPress sites and some tricks that I've seen work with some of my clientele in the past or whatever. But yeah, without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and pass it off to Zach because he knows way more about this stuff than I do. He's the pro.
Apparently the only person who uses PowerPoint online.
I mean, I never used it, that's for sure.
I come out of the enterprise style system, so we're all Microsoft all the time. Well, cool. Thanks, everyone. So, hey, look at that. The button that says Start Slideshow. Okay. So my background is I started out in WordPress when I was in politics. We had a company came and said they wanted $27,000 for a WordPress website that was 4 pages. Yeah, right. I said, I just want 4 pages. I'm giving you all the content, all the pictures. And they said, oh, no, that's how much it costs. I said, I can do this drunk. And they said, no, you can't. So I proved them wrong. And that was how I got started on WordPress. For the last 5 years, I have been in marketing, working in a franchise environment. So I've worked with about 100 different franchisees to help them get their online marketing. We did some WordPress for the last job I was at, where I was the brand marketing manager. But one of the things I'm really passionate about and have had a lot of experience doing with our franchise system and then some freelance clients too is driving traffic to the meetup. So when Rob asked me to join him for this presentation, I was excited because this is something I really like to do. So I think this is an all too common problem that we have. We build a website and then we hope that traffic comes, right? How many folks have been in that boat before, where you've built a website and then you watch the analytics and you watch the analytics and you watch the analytics and it's hard to get that thing to tick up. So I'm going to go through the on-site. There's really 2 parts of it. There's first the on-site content, and that's what I'm going to spend a good chunk of my time talking about, is what can you do to really get focused and have your on-site content. So when people come to your website, they see good content, they want to stay, they want to come back, and they want to engage with you. And then Rob is going to jump over and talk about the social media promotion, right? Because if you're just putting it on your website, chances are people aren't going to find you. So getting out there, amplifying that message and promoting it's big. So that's what we're going to cover tonight. How many folks in this room, I'm assuming everybody has a WordPress website, right? Or you're doing something with a website you're generating content for, right? Yes, no. How many folks feel that they're consistently generating relevant content and engaging content? Okay, cool. We're going to go through to help the rest of you feel more confident about that tonight. So the 3 things that we're going to talk about is engaging in relevant content. When we talk about relevant, a lot of times we think about content that's relevant to the audience we're talking to, but that's only part of it. A key part of it also has to be that the content has to be relevant to what you're trying to accomplish as a business. How many small business owners are in here specifically for like their business? Okay, awesome. So that's what I did a lot with, helping folks first align what your website does to be relevant to your core business objectives, but then also have your content so it's relevant to the people that you want to bring in and have on your website. So we'll talk about how to do that, how to align your website with your core business objectives, how to use target personas to make sure that you're talking to folks right, and then how to use an editorial mission statement so that you're always grounded in your content. So let's talk about the core business objectives. First, a lot of times, and these are just the 4 that I tend to fall into when I'm working with folks, is building brand awareness, whether that's your personal brand or the company that you're working for. How do we build the awareness of our brand that people recognize us by? How do we create brand advocates? Or if you're not necessarily a small business owner, how do you get people to go out there and amplify your content, right? Talk about what you're doing and bring other people into your website. So it's not just you who's out there saying, hey, come check out my really cool website. Enhance public relations. For the decade I was in politics, like this was the only thing we had our website there for, right? We wanted people to have a favorable view of our candidate. And even more when I got into the corporate world, we definitely wanted people to have a favorable view of our company. And then finally, and I think this is for most people who are in the business space, right? You want your website to drive sales and you want it to generate more leads. So those are the 4 that I tend to go to. For those of you who've got a website, I mean, what do you want your website to accomplish? Don't all talk at once. Anyone? Sales and leads, yeah. That's usually a top priority. Anyone else?
I never thought about my website creating brand advocates, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so like I just made the jump to self-employed. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation, but I definitely want people out there saying, hey, we work with Zach. He really knows what he's doing. He really knows what he's talking about. And be out there and be brand ambassadors for my personal brand, right? It doesn't just have to be if you're a business. If you're, want to do consulting or help share your expertise in an area that you're really passionate about, you want to have other people out there who are promoting you and pumping you up, and definitely using your website is one way that you can do that through thought leadership and some other things. So target personas. How many of you are familiar with the idea of a target persona? A few? Okay. So for those of you who aren't, a target persona is basically a generalized concept of who you would want to bring into your business. So I'm starting a new business with a partner to provide marketing services to geriatric care managers and life care managers and other in the senior care space. So we've looked at who are kind of our typical clients. And you can do this if you have a CRM or a database of existing customers. You can go in and look for trends in there. Or you can go to Google Analytics, and sometimes that can be insightful in who are your customers. But a target persona should always be grounded in real customers. It shouldn't be something fictitious. It should be generalizations about people you know who are coming to your website and looking at you. So the three main things to include in a target persona are demographics. Wow, that's not rendering as it was supposed to. So demographics, and keep it high level. I have seen target personas where they got into like the credit score, which is an absurd level of detail unless you're in the financial services industry, right? For a company that's not in financial services, like spending all that time and energy figuring out this, really minute detail is not necessarily the best use of your time. So when you're doing your demographics, keep it at a high level.
When you say high level, do you mean like, I don't know what you mean by that.
I'll show an example here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's better if I give an example. So, pain points, kind of what, and pain points should relate to your business or your website, right? The same persona that I saw that had the credit scores in it also said that the person didn't like really hot coffee. I mean, again, unless you're McDonald's and you shouldn't be scalding your customers with coffee, having that in there isn't necessarily great. There's other better ways you could be spending your time writing a persona. But keep it related to the people who you're trying to attract to your website. And then finally, desires. So this is what the folks want from your website, or what they're coming to get from you. Do this, though, without describing yourself. So the outcome is, they want more customers, and the way they do that is by working with me, right? You don't want to necessarily talk about yours in there. So this will all make sense. Like I said, I'm doing Wellspring Marketing, this company we just started with some friends. So this would be a target persona. So typical Tina, this is one of our, so we identified 5 personas. There's 2 main ones. So Tina is in her late 50s, healthcare field for 30 years, 12 years of clinical experience. For us, this is important. It's an important distinction, and is motivated by helping others. When you do your demographics, I've always found it's really useful to include motivation. And I'll show you my next one. You'll see kind of why that works well. But what motivates people, especially if you're in a business and you're trying to sell to folks. So when you're thinking about, okay, here's my customers, and I'm going to bucket them into these different buckets, what motivates them to be successful? This is especially useful if you're in a B2B situation. So there's the demographics. Does that make a little more sense now that you've seen kind of like how the demographics work? Okay. Yeah, it's hard to like explain it and then not without an example right off the bat. So then the pain points, and again, we looked back at the customers we're working with, or our potential customers, and a lot of them are tech challenged, right? They're looking at retirement, so they haven't spent a lot of time working with computers. Feeling overextended, so they've got too much. Want to spend more time focusing on clients, want to spend less time focusing on their business. And then their outcomes. The outcomes that this persona of typical Tina means they want happier clients. They want to retain clients. When we look at the care managers that we're going after, a lot of them take it personally when a client leaves them. So how do we help them retain clients? And they want to spend less time doing sales and more time working with their clients. So when we looked at the people we go after and the care managers that I've been working with at my previous job, there's a lot of care managers who fall into this persona of typical Tina. So now that I've got some stuff written down on paper, when I go to create content, I can write things that are focused on this particular group of people who I know are coming to my website and who I would like to sell my services to. One of the things that I found that's also really helpful if you've ever sat down to write a page or write a blog post and you're trying to figure out, you know the meat of the subject, right? You know what you want to cover, but you're having a hard time like getting into the article. Like how do you do that transition in, warm people up, or how do you get out of the article? Like what's your kind of closing statement or your call to action? One of the keys or one of the things I found that's really helpful is to say, Dear Tina, and then write the post there. Then it feels more natural, like you're writing a letter or writing an email. And then you can go back through and tweak it. But that's a good way to overcome writer's block if you're not sure how to get into your content or how you want to step out of it and kind of wrap it up nicely. If you focus on it like you're writing a letter to this person. So then our other persona, and this was actually a surprise to us when we sat down and saw the contrast between these two. Our other persona in the care management space. We're calling it Ambitious Amanda. These care managers are in their mid-40s. They've got about 15 years of clinical experience, so they're in the clinical setting a little bit longer, which is, again, an important distinction for us. They're not necessarily motivated by helping people, don't get me wrong. That's important for all of them. But they're more motivated by financial independence. As opposed to going all the way through their career and staying in the healthcare field, they've struck out on their own to be a care manager because they're motivated by financial independence. And then that changes what their pain points are, right? So when we did this and we looked at our customers and said, okay, our other big group of care managers we're going after, they're motivated by financial independence. And their pain points tend to be there's not enough hours in the day. They spend too much time focusing on non-billable tasks. And they struggle to measure ROI. And for any of us who've looked at our websites or done marketing activities, right, trying to figure out, hey, I spent this many hours or this much money on marketing, and what did I see in terms of ROI? So then their desired outcomes, right, is she wants a consistent pipeline. She always wants to have customers coming in. For any of you who are in that consulting, you'll understand that idea of a pipeline where you've always got customers coming in. Also wants to retain clients, but this is more motivated from client turnover costs money, and less from I take it personally, and wants to see better margins in what they're doing. So once we got these two personas written out, we could see, there's stark differences in what people want. Yeah,
out of curiosity. So the other woman and this woman, why would they come to Wellspring? Is it a job sourcing company or what?
No, so we're a marketing company. So the senior care space is becoming a lot more competitive. Like there's just a lot more people stepping into the care manager. So for a long time in the care manager world, typical Tina was really the only person you saw. But now you've got a lot of these ambitious Amandas moving in who are looking at this. Don't get me wrong, they're not completely motivated financial independence. There's a lot of motivations. They do want to do good. They want to help people, but they see this as a route to that. So we're saying, look, this is increasingly competitive. You need marketing assistance. We're Wellspring. We get this space. I've been in it for 5 years. My partner's been in it for about a decade.
So what would you do for both of these two?
Marketing. So anything
What does marketing mean?
Anything from building websites, WordPress websites, to email campaigns, lead nurturing, blog articles, thought leadership, social media management,
So
printed
your
materials.
to get them jobs, is that it? Or?
To get them clients, to help them bring in clients. Yep. So we want to help them demonstrate their expertise in the senior care space, right? That when you're making a decision as personal as hiring somebody to care for you or care for an aging loved one, right? You really want to know that the person you're hiring knows what they're talking about and is good at it. So yeah, does that kind of make sense for what Wellspring does?
So for example, just to drill this a little bit more, would both of these say be registered nurses, or what would be their academic backgrounds that they would?
Registered nurses and licensed social workers. So most of the people that we're working with are registered nurses or licensed social workers, or have some kind of a healthcare setting.
Fundamentally, you build a clientele for them.
Okay. Yep, we'd help them go out. So Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because when you look at these different personas, then you can kind of start to formulate, here's content that we can put on our website, here's content that we can put on our blog that would be engaging to these people. So we know that our typical Tina crowd is tech challenged. So we can write about, ways that they can use technology or find technology that makes it easier. One of the bigger pain points our folks have is QuickBooks. So we're recommending FreshBooks, right, which is a little more user-friendly, takes a little less time. But that's content that doesn't necessarily relate to our core mission, but it is something that's interesting for our audience that they're coming in to talk about. So as we laid these out, we saw similarities between the two, right? Because we've got two very distinct folks we're marketing for. We saw similarities, but we also saw some differences. For the folks who are motivated for financial independence, it's kind of a different pitch. It's a different blog post, which is great because it helps us broaden. It gives us more things that we can write on our blog about. So does that make sense there? I mean, can people kind of visualize how this would work for you, or how you could make this work on your websites?
Sounds a lot better, because I thought there are two different positions. I thought they were going to take care of my grandma, and I would not want ambitious Tina next to.
No. Yeah.
She's helping my grandma make more money, is her position, right?
So she would be coordinating care, coordinating
workers.
Coordinating workers, coordinating in-home care services. The company I come from does concierge services. So, if you need your car taken to the shop or something like that, they coordinate all of that. Again, I think it's important to know that your personas are internal to you. I would never go out to one of our clients and say, you're an ambitious Amanda, right? Because she's going to say, oh, no. I'm not solely motivated by financial independence. Right, right. That's how they see themselves. But as you talk to them, as you listen to them, you say, what you're driving at is you want to retire more comfortably, and you see your path towards financial independence in this route as opposed to in the clinical setting.
Write two separate newsletters then?
No, we try to figure out where we can blend and keep these together, right? So, these are people that are, we've got 8 clients so far, and we're working to expand that out, but our 8 clients would fall into one of these two categories. They're either looking at an encore career, or see this as a road to financial independence. But then this helps us, one, it challenges our perception. And I think that's a trap we can all fall into as people who administer websites, right? We think we know what the people coming to our website want. But if we look back through our CRMs or through our analytics or any of the stuff that Rob's going to talk about here, I think he's going to show some analytics, right? That can help us figure out, are we right in our assumptions about our audience, or do we need to change those assumptions? And having personas, when I do this with clients not who are Wellspring, but independently, and sit down and kind of go through this is a really enlightening exercise for me, because they say, oh, wow, I've got a lot more things I could be talking about that I'm not, or wow, it looks like when I look at my CRM, I was way off on kind of who I thought my clients are. Does this make sense, though, to everyone?
Yeah, basically, we're just trying to draw a target, because if you don't have a target, then you're just throwing darts wherever, and you don't know where you're going to hit. So we're just trying to focus on exactly what type of people we want to attract to our site and see our material.
And this is a good tool to go through and do that. So
wait, you did this before you had the 8 clients even? And that's
no, we had the 8 clients ahead of time.
So what if you had, you're just starting?
Industry research. You can go through, if you've got a website that's up and running, you can look at some of your analytics. If you've got social media, LinkedIn groups are a really good place to go, where those people kind of exist, and then figure out where can you bucket people in. You really don't want to I've seen some people have like 20 target personas, like 5 or so, 3 to 5 is usually a good place. Because again, this is a generalized picture of your customers. So like Rob said, we're trying to figure out where to shoot. So we should have some nice big targets to go after them. So yeah, if you don't have customers, you can figure it out. There's other ways and tools to kind of figure out what people want. Okay, so once we've got a plan for, we know who we're talking to, now we want to have kind of an overarching way that we are going to be able to talk to them. And an editorial mission statement is a really good way to stay focused on what we're going to talk about. Now, this is your overall website or your overall content strategy. not every post you do needs to fit into your editorial statement. I'll show you that in a later slide. But for the most part, when you're figuring out what your editorial mission statement is, so this is what's going to drive our efforts in creating that engaging and relevant content, who's our audience target? Well, if you've done your target personas, you've already got that one answered, so 2 birds with 1 stone there. What are you going to deliver? Right? This is the question. Why should you come to your website out of all the other websites out there and all the kitten videos on Facebook that you could be watching? Why would you come to our website? So what are we delivering? And then what's the outcome? So when they do come to your website, and again, holistically, not just per post, but what are they going to walk away with? So I'll give you an example. If you're not familiar with Inc., they're a magazine for entrepreneurs and small business owners. They've probably got one of the best editorial statements out there. It says, "Welcome to Inc., the place where entrepreneurs and business owners can find useful information, advice, insights, resources, and inspiration for running and growing their business." So if we're going to break that down into the 3 components, the audience target is the entrepreneurs and the business owners. What is delivered is going to be useful information, advice, insights, and resources. And the outcome for Inc.'s audience is going to be inspiration for running and growing their business. And for everybody who is out there thinking, great, a magazine, they should have that buttoned up. Procter & Gamble a few years back, they're the ones who make a lot of essential stuff, but nothing that's really cool. They shared their editorial mission statement with everyone too. And if you're Procter & Gamble and you come up with an editorial mission statement around Tide, Bounty, Charmin, and Head & Shoulders, right, it should be about anybody should be able to come up with that. Does anyone notice what Procter & Gamble's missing in their editorial mission statement? Which of the 3 are they don't have?
Call to action to buy.
No, so this is just the editorial mission statement.
The target audience?
Yeah, target audience. Theirs is just you. We strive to help you. All right, you'd want to be a little more constructed, although I guess they're Procter & Gamble and they're saying, hey, you have to use our products.
Everybody needs our code.
Everybody needs us. You can't get away from us. Yay, Monopoly. So does that make sense for editorial mission statements? How you can construct those to focus. Again, these are broad. It's not going to direct each single post, but when you're thinking, okay, what do I write? Where do I do? Yeah.
What are your thoughts on publishing this or making this like public knowledge or keeping it more in-house?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with publishing this. Coca-Cola published theirs. Procter & Gamble published theirs. When content marketing was really becoming all the rage like 3 years ago, a lot of the big brands were saying, hey, look at us. Coca-Cola went so far as to make 2 11-minute videos that basically spelled out their editorial mission statement and how they were going to do it. So yeah, I don't think personas you'd probably want to hold back because that's a really candid, here's how I'm going to sell. But telling your audience, hey, if you come, this is what we're going to do for you, I don't think that's a bad thing.
How much does the editorial mission statement follow the corporate mission statement?
Depends.
It's more fleshed out, but
yeah, it depends. Our editorial mission statement from the brand I used to work at was similar, but since we were trying to demonstrate expertise, thought leadership, compassion, and all those things, it ran parallel, I guess, because we were a little more focused on content where they're a little more fluffy, if that makes sense.
Right. Is it possible, I don't know anything about the subject, but is it possible they didn't go that extra distance on the statement just because using this stuff is so inherent to what people are going to do anyway? So if they run out of laundry soap, they're going to go to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what Procter & Gamble is thinking. I like to throw them in here just so I can see if the audience is awake.
But do you think sometimes one can avoid that extra bit just because it's so endemic to what somebody's going to do anyway? Or is it just a good idea to nail it?
I would nail it. I mean, if Procter & Gamble has certainly gone through and done their target personas on each line of their brand, right? They know. And if you look at, I mean, I'm kind of an advertising and marketing geek, so I spend a lot of time analyzing marketing campaigns, and I sit around with American Marketing Association people and we do it together. You can tell that Procter & Gamble has very clearly laid out on each of their SKUs who their personas are, and they're creating content to speak to them. So if you've already got your personas written and you know who you want to attract, put in your editorial mission statement how you put them in there. Because that way, when you're sitting down at that blank piece of paper, I mean, I'm assuming everybody in here has experienced that writer's block, right? Where you sit down, you need to create content so you don't have a stale website, but where do you start? What do you do? Or how do you keep it cohesive? This is a really good way to do that. Any more questions on editorial mission statements? Okay, so one last thing then. That slide's not supposed to be in there. Okay. So creating content with a purpose. Typically, there are 4 main purposes you have whenever you're going to create content or even curate content. The first one is to inform your audience. The second one would be to entertain your audience. The third one is to inspire your audience. And the fourth one is to persuade. So I've got a personal blog that I'm not active on, but I have delusions of one day having enough time that I'll be able to write posts. So on Inform, if I was going to write an informative post, I could very easily take the information in this PowerPoint and turn it into a blog post. This is informative, or at least I hope it's informative. I guess you guys can tell us when you rate me afterwards. On the entertain side, one of the posts I've got is the biggest problem that cities have with potholes is it's just a marketing issue. As opposed to calling them potholes, call them cost-effective traffic calming devices. Yeah, see?
Nice.
We can entertain. There is legitimately a post up on my website called A Millennial's Guide to Medicare. Which is fairly snarky, but that's also designed to entertain people, right? People come to the website, they can see a sense of humor. If you're trying to have a personal brand, one of the challenging things, I think, to getting that personal brand out there is letting your personality come through. And you can do that more easily with posts that are meant to entertain and posts that are meant to inspire. So if you're in one of those industries where personality is really key, entertain and inspire posts are really good at doing that. So on my blog, eventually, hopefully, as I'm starting up Wellspring, I've made the transition from being in the corporate world to being self-employed. I've started to write a series for my blog about how I made that leap and how I'm setting up my business. And the goal there is for readers who come to my blog to be inspired. So if that's a journey they're on, they can get that. So the first 3, though, are things that people who come to your website internalize, right? They come, they take it internally, and they move on. The fourth one, persuade, that's where we're trying to get them to take an action. We are trying to persuade them to sign up for our email list. We are trying to persuade them to download some gated content so we can move them into our lead funnel. We're trying to persuade them to buy something. So that's external. We're trying to push them in a direction to do something. So again, there can be other posts, or your post may be inspirational and entertaining, right? You can mix and match. But if you're trying to figure out how do I categorize my post or what do I want to write, one of the things I do is I look at my content calendar and say, okay, I've been really heavy on my informative posts. Maybe I should throw in here something that's more entertaining or more inspirational just to mix it up a little bit. So categorizing this helps me kind of keep a nice mix of content on my blog, and we did this on the corporate blog too. Because when you're talking about care management, it can get kind of boring kind of quick. Microsoft has been really good at doing this on their blog. When they did common business acronyms, so PTO, paid time off, they moved that around into photograph taking opportunity. So they had a whole campaign running around that, right, as a way to inject some fresh content into their blog, but that was clearly in the entertain category or the inspire category, as opposed to just being informative about Microsoft products. Any questions? Because I believe that's all I've got to say. Yeah, we're not talking about you today. Okay.
I'm just kind of rolling it around in my head how I would use all this for real estate.
Okay.
I'm a realtor, and I don't really like my brokerage's, standard website that they give everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's in a franchise system. I heard that all the time. I hate the standard website you gave me.
I mean,
I totally get that.
But I like, but I don't like their CRM, and I mean, I basically want to redo everything. And I don't think it would be different if I went to another brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it would be the same story, different place. But right now, we're in a buyer's market. There's hardly any houses out there. So I'm thinking, how do I get people to sell their house when they have nowhere else to go? You know, they need to go on traveling for another couple of years. They don't need a house. They need to go travel.
One of the things I work with apartment complexes. One of the WordPress things I've done for them. We're pushing folks to say, hey, you're getting older, you're downsizing, you want some predictability in how much your rent's going to be or how much your monthly living expenses are? Come rent one of our apartments. Hot water heater breaks. It's not on you anymore. That's on the apartment complex.
Yeah, no lawn, no shoveling.
Yeah, but if you sit down and you do your target personas and you kind of figure out what are those things that motivate, what are those pain points, and what are those desired outcomes, that's really an enlightening exercise, and then you can weave that into the rest of your content strategy. All of those slides are available, and I thought that last slide was going to have my URL up there, but it didn't, so I guess we can throw that up on the screen afterwards.
We can put the link to it in the meetup comments.
So,
say it also.
it's Zach, Z-A-C-H, N, as in Nelson, so ZachN.co/drive traffic. It's all one word, just drive traffic. So ZachN.co/drive traffic. And that'll get you that presentation. It's a lot of information all at once. Here's Rob for even more information all at once.
Yeah, and also keep in mind this will be on YouTube forever, so you can always
if you want to hear my obnoxious voice for
unless my son edits it off. He works at YouTube.
That was great.
In the security department.
Well, we'll make sure we don't throw anybody's social security number up on the screen here then. All right, cool. Thanks, Zach. I don't have many slides. However, I do have a bunch of fun stuff to talk about because I have a lot of experience with this type of stuff. As my computer slowly catches up with my brain. So first and foremost, I kind of want to build off some of the stuff that Zach said. He brought up some really good points, but I think a lot of you might have been, I think the easiest thing to direct these tactics towards is like blog articles that you write as if you have your own online magazine or something like that. And that is not the only thing that you should be using WordPress for, and that is not the only type of content you can post to your WordPress site. You can apply all of these same things to different styles or types of posts that are way more relevant to your business model. So for instance, Becky, you were talking about how you do real estate, you want your own website or whatever, right? So maybe some blog articles about like 5 reasons why right now is a good time to sell, that might be a good idea, right? But you probably don't want to write stuff like that all the time. What might be better is, here's just a post about this house that I'm selling. Individual products that you're trying to sell, or just like day-to-day things that your business either produces or projects that you complete or are working on or whatever, could function as a post. All you need is some pictures and some words and some engaging content around all of that. And that's not necessarily the same as a blog article and could still be valuable to people that come across your content, essentially, right? So think about that. And I guess think about that while I talk about this stuff here. And so this is going to kind of be the second part of what you guys all want to know about probably, which is how do we use the power of social media to get people to stray away from the feed that they're scrolling through to whatever content it is that is good for your business, essentially, right? And I've got a few slides here just to kind of like bullet point some ideas and make some points. But then we're going to do a lot of digging around into clients' that I've worked with and what their sites are doing and how they're using post types and the types of things that they could be doing to improve driving traffic to their website. And then also some clients that I have that have found very creative ways and very successful ways to use social media to pull people to their website, essentially. So first and foremost, actually, I think it's important to point out before we get into all this is that primarily, and I don't have a slide that bullets this or whatever, but primarily what we're targeting right now are the top social media networks, okay? So obviously, younger people are on Snapchat and stuff like that. We're not really talking about stuff like that. Younger people aren't buying stuff. Snapchat is not designed to push material in that fashion. So what are we talking about? Good social media platforms to leverage for business or to try to drive traffic from there to somewhere else on the internet are stuff like YouTube. Making YouTube video content is extremely productive and extremely efficient in terms of cost. Most of what we're going to be talking about today is Facebook. So obviously Facebook is a huge thing and it's not going anywhere. Twitter is somewhat valuable. However, Twitter users just don't tend to convert the same way that Facebook and YouTube does. And that's just statistics, and I don't know. I've done a lot of research on the matter. I didn't spend a lot of time like going through and like all the research that I've done in the past and trying to refine it again and like quote it and put it up here. I've done a little tiny bit of that here, but just take my word for it. And if you don't believe me, you're welcome to do some Googling on your own after this and see what you come up with. But yeah, that's the fact of the matter. Of course, Instagram really isn't going to do anything for you at all. What might do something for you, depending on the niche that your business is in, is Pinterest, believe it or not. So that is for sure a fairly useful place to market when it comes to social media, specifically when it comes to like craft goods, I guess. Like if you are a builder and you build craft stuff or artsy type stuff, if you're a painter, you sell artwork of some kind, even like clothing, stuff like that can all be, Pinterest is a great place for that. Anything that's very picture heavy where people are just wanting to see pictures of stuff and then decide what they want based off the picture instead of, more text or whatever, right? So obviously that's not good for everybody, but for some people it is really good. So for instance, like in the real estate market, I would probably focus most of my efforts on Facebook, to be completely honest, because if somebody sees a house that they really like, or they know somebody who's selling their house, if they come across a post that they see on Facebook that's their friend's house that they're trying to sell, they're very likely to go and share that just because they want to help out their friend, and it only takes them 4 seconds to click a couple times on the phone, and now they've done their friend a solid or their family member a solid by sharing some information about their house and hopefully making them more money off their house because they get more what do you call that? More
exposure.
Yeah, not exposure, but when people more offers. Yeah, more offers on the house. Yeah. So the 4 points we want to look at for grading criteria when it comes to let me rephrase that. The 4 points that Facebook uses to grade the criteria of any given post is inventory, signals, predictions, and then the end result, which is the score that it gets. How many people are aware that the order in which stuff shows up on your Facebook feed is actually ordered by scoring posts? Was anybody here aware of that?
I think you had your certain people or your stars, like I want to see this person first.
It does. So that type of stuff it gets worked into the algorithm and does dramatically affect the score, but that by itself is not dictating the score. There are a lot of factors. The algorithm is extremely complex, and so there are a lot of factors that go into scoring the cards that are going to show up on your feed. So that's essentially how, almost like a video game. Think of it as a video game. Every single post that you and you and you and you, all you put out, right? Then I guess we're making the assumption that we're all friends on Facebook, so we would see each other's posts, right? But all the posts you guys make, Facebook is first going to look at our inventory, and it's going to say, what is the total stock of all the content that can be available in the feed, right? What's our bucket look like? Because there's automatically a bunch of factors that disqualify, right? If you and I aren't friends on Facebook, I'm not going to see your posts, so you're disqualified immediately. So we're kind of just forgetting about all the stuff that's disqualified, and we're only worried about the stuff that could actually possibly show up on our feed, even if it's only a 1% chance that it's going to show up on our feed. Okay. So this includes everything posted from friends and publishers. This also includes stuff like pages that you like. This also includes groups that you're in. All of the different things that Facebook, the ways that it categorizes the content that's on Facebook, anything that you engage in on Facebook, even events, right? If you said you're interested in some event, if they post something to that events page, that now is part of this inventory, if that makes any sense. So is there any questions about that? Like we're creating a pen, right? Almost like a code pen, if you will, that we stick all of the possible content into, and then after that, we have to go through and start figure out how many points each one of those posts gets and how we award them the points. Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
How could you post to your page so it affects other people's feeds?
That's what we're getting to.
Oh, okay.
That's a great question. That's the whole point of what I'm talking about this for. Yeah, absolutely. And great question.
Awesome.
If I haven't solved that by the end of my talk, you're welcome to ask that question again. So signals is the next point, right? This represents all the information that Facebook can gather about a piece of content. What type of content, the publisher, its age, purpose, and more. Okay, you want your, not to read verbatim, I'm sure you guys can read, but it also helps if I say it. You want your content to signal to Facebook that it's meaningful and relevant to your target audience. So again, let's go through each one of these. The type of content, okay? Is this just a post with text and that's it? Is it a video post? Is there a video in the post? Is there a picture in the post? Is there a link to another website in the post? All of these things matter. Does the video have audio that goes with it or not? I'll show you why that all matters soon, but there's a lot of things that go into it. What is the picture even of? Is anybody here aware of the fact that Facebook actually knows what's in your picture without you even putting text whatsoever above or below it? It's called facial recognition, and it's not only for faces. They can tell what's in the picture using facial recognition, even if it's not a face. So if it's a picture of a flower or a plant or whatever, like I'm into growing peppers, if it's a picture of a pepper, that might award it more points as Facebook's trying to figure out how it's going to fit into my feed, because it knows I like posts that have pictures and I like peppers, and since this is a picture of a pepper, boom, I get whatever, 9 out of 10. Yeah.
When I was trying to input an image and some HTML that I was writing, tons of gobbledygook, and
you can't use HTML on Facebook posts.
Which is fine. My question is, when I pasted this location of this image off of Google Images into my HTML, it came up with, it didn't just say, smiley face, and a dog and .com. It didn't just say, it had a ton of different script in it. And I wanted to know if Facebook can read that script and know. And my real question is, if they can I design a photograph that has specific information in it?
Yes, but I think you're thinking of it from the wrong point of view right at this point in time. Currently, we're just focused on what ends up on Facebook. We'll get to how we can tailor our content in the blog post to what we want on Facebook. But it kind of goes back to what he was doing at the beginning of his talk, right? First thing we talked about was the personas. We're trying to figure out what type of people we're trying to get in, right? We got to draw a target. Because if you don't draw a target first and you just start throwing darts out there and you start throwing money at Facebook and YouTube and whatever, who knows where it's going to end up at, right? It might not hit, you're not going to hit anything at all. So we try to figure out what is our target Facebook post, like what's our most ideal Facebook post that we can end up with, and then tailor our blog post to match that criteria. Does that make sense? Or maybe it's not a blog post, our WordPress content, right? Doesn't have to be a blog post, as I said earlier, but I'm going to keep drilling that home. Also, the publisher, who you are makes a difference. Its age, how old is the post? When was it actually posted? And we're not talking about days here. We're talking about hours or even minutes. It does make a huge difference. Like, there are actually key times during the day to like create Facebook posts that are, whatever, statistically likely to get better traffic.
Does that change over time?
Absolutely. Depends on the day of the week. Yeah, depending on what day of week, the time of day will change. Also, season.
Have they, Facebook, have they just gotten more, I would guess, more sophisticated at locating those critical periods of time?
Facebook has nothing to do with it. We, the users of Facebook, are dictating it.
Or what?
We, the users of Facebook, are dictating these times.
Okay.
So
they respond.
Facebook isn't actually going out there and like creating these times. We are, as the users. All of this information is getting put into WordPress, and just naturally, organically, this type of stuff is happening. We only discover what these things are through research, and that's it.
Well, like Google, they swap around their SEO formulas apparently fairly often, and people are trying to pin that down. Would Facebook be doing stuff akin to that as well, or is it just apples to oranges? It is apples to oranges, absolutely, because their goal is dramatically different than what Facebook's goal is, right? Google's goal is just to make sure that when people type something into a search bar, they quickly find content that's relevant to what they're searching for. Facebook is just making sure that the users are using it, continue to use it as much as possible. All right, so predictions represent the behavior of a user and how likely they are predicted to have a positive interaction with a content piece. So now you have to realize we're not even just talking about one score. We're actually talking about multiple scores per post, a predicted score and an evaluated score. So it self-analyzes. So it says, I bet they're going to like this post a bunch, and it gives it one score. And then as you scroll through the feed, depending on how you interact with that post, it then gives it a different score. And then it uses AI and deep learning and algorithms to adjust itself over time so that it can figure out how wrong it was and then how to make sure it's not wrong as often. And then finally, the score. Score is the final number assigned to a piece of content based on the likelihood the user will respond positively to it. And again, we're just talking about that initial predicted score. So the actual number that it's using to sort the posts that show up on your feed before you see them. So when that thing loads and you start to see all these cards stacked on top of each other, the one with the highest score is at the top, the one with the lowest score is at the bottom, and as you scroll through, you're going down and down and down and down in score. It's that simple. Any questions about that? Was anybody here aware that this is how Facebook worked? How many people assume that when they put something on Facebook and they're like, let's say, Zach, you and I are friends on Facebook, right? How many people would automatically assume that since Zach and I are friends on Facebook and I post something on Facebook that Zach is going to see it next time he gets on Facebook? Most people are under that assumption, aren't they? Yeah. That does not always happen for a number of reasons. So let's go back over all the things that we just talked about.
What if I posted the thing that I posted at 11 o'clock at night and Zach is already asleep? He wakes up the next morning, that post is already 9 hours old, and that thing is degraded and scored dramatically. And next time he gets on Facebook might not be till 10 o'clock in the morning when he's on the John, and even then he doesn't have but like 4 minutes, right? And so he doesn't even make it down on my post. And so therefore he doesn't see it, and therefore he doesn't like it. And now I'm sad because I only got 2 likes on my post, even though I thought it was a great post. And what do? I'm like, man, my friends don't even care about me. You know what I mean? And it's got nothing to do with how much my friends care about me. It has entirely to do with some computer trying to figure out how the heck do I grade all these posts that are coming through me every day, right? Like literally gajillions of them, I'm sure, right? I know that's not a number, but let's just pretend it is. It's a really high number that nobody counts all the zeros for, okay? So the end.
Would Facebook then kind of drop your post onto his account later?
Because in the example I just described, it's next time he goes onto Facebook, it's gonna end up in that pen, if you will, of posts that are supposed to end up on his feed. But the score is going to be a lot lower than it would have been if he had gone to sleep 30 minutes later and saw my post because he checked Facebook right before he went to sleep, right? You know what I mean? Like, so he would have been a lot more likely to see it. And there's a lot of other, and that's just the timing factor. We haven't even talked about all the other factors. Like, what if, for whatever reason, Zach doesn't even read posts that have a bunch of text, and my post had a bunch of text in it? Facebook might know that he's more likely to interact with posts that have pictures. And since I had no picture in my post, it got degraded dramatically. So even though he checked Facebook 4 minutes after I put it up, he still didn't scroll far enough to see it because there was no picture there. Right? You guys understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even if I did put a picture in there, let's say I took a picture of my thumb. I don't know why I would take a picture of my thumb, but let's say I took a picture of my thumb. He's not into human digits. Okay? And so it knows that he's not into human digits. However, if I had taken a picture of, I don't know, say like some pretty girl I saw yesterday while I was out in Benson, and we took a selfie together because I went to high school with her or something, he may, let's just be honest, like, if you're scrolling through Facebook and you're a dude and you see a pretty girl, you'd be like, whoa, what was that, right? It actually knows if you do that. It does actually keep track of which posts you just scroll right past and which ones you stall on. It's crazy, right? Yeah. However smart you think Facebook is, it's actually 10 times smarter. Okay? So, for instance, women. If you want to target women are the same way. They want to see a bunch of pictures. And guess what women stop on? Things that are cute. Outfits that are cute. Babies that are cute. Animals that are cute. Anything cute. Yeah. Things that have the color pink or purple in them. Images that are like that are more likely to get graded higher on their feed. What if for whatever reason they're in some weird group? It knows that, right? And so if Becky is obviously into real estate, so she probably, anytime she sees a house on Facebook, whoa, hold on, what house is that? Who's selling stuff? Why am I not selling this house, right? She's probably gonna look at what's the number on that house, right? I guarantee you she's analyzing all these things all the time, including when she's on Facebook. So if I was friends with Becky and I took a picture of my house and I put it up on Facebook, I think it's very likely that Becky's going to end up seeing what my house looks like. Yep. So since Facebook predicts what you will engage with, then tracks what you engage with, and it knows your reactions and is constantly correcting itself, it grades this by the presence of image, video, links, etc. If you tend to scroll until you see pictures, it knows that and shows you more pictures. A lot of people scroll through their feed like this. I don't know why there's a random P there. Posts without images tend to get less feed visibility and thus engagement. So, if you write a blog post and you want to share that blog post on Facebook, it's probably a good idea that your blog post has a very enticing image embedded into it, and that embedded image ends up in the post when you share it. because somebody will see it and then they will click on it. So,
do they go so deep that if you have like a URL in there, that it will kind of scan the URL itself and see, is that interesting? What's there?
Absolutely.
Really?
100%. Because Facebook and Google, they probably don't act like it that much. When you hear them on the news and through political news and stuff like that, you probably don't realize this, but they're homies. They kick it on the weekends hard. No doubt. Even slumber parties sometimes. They love each other. So yes. And guess who's doing that part for them? Google. So, human reactions are primal. Images and stuff that trigger primal reactions are low-hanging fruit, like food. So if it's 11:30 and I'm a dude and I'm scrolling through Facebook and I'm getting hungry and somebody's got pictures of food, posts of food that they've posted probably even within the last day or two, it's going to show up highly. And when I scroll past it, I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at that food. And I'm going to be like, where's that food at? I want me some of that. Believe you and me, that's how it works. And I'm going to show you some data that backs it up here soon too. Something else you guys should all be aware of. So I'm sure every person here that has some kind of a business that they're trying to run, if you haven't, I'd be surprised, but you probably created a Facebook page for that business. Even our group, this group WP Omaha, we have a page that you can like, and we also have a group or a community on Facebook. We have both. These two things, posts from them are delivered to Facebook users at different scores, automatically right out of the gate. They have base scores assigned to them that are then altered based on the user's whatever interaction with that content previously. Okay, so the new algorithm lowered the reach of most pages even further, but simultaneously gave group postings more priority. This is from about 4 months ago. I'll put this slideshow, like we just said for him, we'll get a link on the meetup or whatever so you guys can go through this. This is actually a link. You can go to the article and read it. This is a real thing. This happened recently. It wasn't very long ago. Facebook decided we're going to allow people that want to push content to groups of people, whether they're a business or not, we're going to allow them to do it, but it has to be more community-based and less marketing-based. So it's no longer cool to just be like, oh, I've got a video game that I just created and I'm trying to make sure everybody knows about my video game. So I made a page about my video game, and then people that like my video game are going to go like it. And then that's going to make my posts on that page show up on everybody's feed. Not so much. But if we have a community, that makes a lot more sense because people are more engaged in communities than they are in products, which is why if this meetup was about Samsung S10 Plus, I think we would have a lot less people here unless we were giving them out for free or something like that. But since this is like people are coming here to learn from other people that know a lot about this stuff, and we're all helping each other out, we're engaged with each other, and we, as humans, are more likely to engage with other people that have similar interests to us than some product that somebody's trying to shove down our throat. Okay? So, lesson learned, pushing stuff through groups or creating a group that doesn't come off as a product might be beneficial to you. Even, I'm going to keep picking on Becky because she's the only person whose occupation I know here. What if she created a group that was just like, I don't know,
motivational, inspirational.
For sale by owner homes, which isn't really good for you, but some people are interested in that. So that may not, you might think that that's not your target audience, but people explore all of their options. And if more people are interested in for sale by owner homes than they are for sale by realtor homes, there's nothing preventing you from going out there and creating a group that's like that people end up joining and engaging, and every once in a while you put a post up of something that you're selling.
Okay.
and they'll see that.
Didn't you just say that it needs to be more relational rather than occupational? Did I mishear you?
Yeah, the idea is that other people that are selling their own homes would be putting their stuff on there too.
Oh, so you're creating something that
you're creating an atmosphere. You're creating an ecosystem.
Okay,
So the company I used to work for did this. They had, I forget what it's called, but it was a home care group, and the whole idea was for family caregivers, which is a direct competition to our business line, and even the competitors. The big national competitors were part of that group, but it was that relational. And every now and then, like Rob said, we would drop in something promotional about us. You got to be careful so you don't get dinged because they can't figure out. But we drop those in every now and then, and yeah, it's a really effective.
Or maybe you don't create your own group. Maybe you go find some groups that already exist. Neighborhoods have Facebook groups. Yeah. So.
Yeah, next door, they're real.
Well, that's a whole different thing, though. Now you're talking about you're talking about a website. I'm still talking about Facebook groups. So, like my parents, they live in the neighborhood of Hillsboro, and they have a Facebook group. So that if anything's going on in Hillsboro and they're going through Facebook, they can see, oh, look, they're doing a party down at the park this weekend or something like that. It might be beneficial for you to get in good with the people who admin that group. And if you happen to have a home that's for sale that you're trying to sell in Hillsboro, maybe you could somehow sneak a post into that Facebook group if you help them out in some way, shape, or form. We're doing an open house at this house down the street in Hillsboro. That actually might be information that is relevant to people that live in the neighborhood because maybe their relative wants to move to Omaha and they want to live close to them because, well, we want to live close to our relatives, especially if we're moving here from out of town. You know what I'm saying? So they may be like, oh, hey, there's a house for sale down the street and they got an open house. Cool. We could go down there and check it out for, I don't know, Grandma Sue that lives up in Norfolk that's been thinking about moving to Omaha for 5 years or something like that, right? Stuff happens. So that's all the slides I got. I told you I didn't have very many, but I just wanted to drive some points home. Now we're going to go ahead and look at some stuff. One of the most interesting examples of stuff like this that I've seen happen with my clients has been, and we actually just looked at this website the other day in the HTML and CSS workshop series. Anybody heard of Food and Spirits magazine? Based here out of Omaha. If you've been to any like little niche restaurants, usually out in Benson or whatever, Mangia Italia or whatever, like you might see these magazines for free. Okay, I made this website. He's a client of mine, and he needed a new website, so I did the website for him, and I've done a bunch of other stuff for him since then too. And so this is a free website. So he makes all of his money off of marketing, but obviously it's good for all of Omaha to know about this thing and the brand and whatever, so that it raises how much money he can charge for the advertising in the magazine, because then there's more people that actually consume the magazine and interact with the blog posts and so on and so forth. That's more, it's really, really hard to like tell how many people actually read the articles in the magazine, but a lot easier to tell how many people read the articles on the website. You see what I'm saying? So like he can actually gather better analytics for how valuable his brand is here, and thus have that affect his ability to sell to these restaurants and stuff that pay to get in this thing. Does that make sense? So
the magazine, do you have them go to the website via the magazine? Like go to the website for a coupon or?
Absolutely. There's all sorts of stuff like that that happens. And it's not easy to share a physical magazine on Facebook, but it is easy to share articles from that physical magazine that are on this website on Facebook. You see what I'm saying? So, what are we seeing? We're seeing restaurants, and we're seeing food, and we're seeing articles done about restaurants. So let's just go to one of these. And I do not keep up with what he puts on here. But these are full-blown articles that are written by real writers, and he pays these people to do this. And this is an active thing. This isn't like just some demo or whatever, right? So this is an article written about some restaurant in Dundee, right? And he finds a really good picture of their food, puts it smack dab on top, And then what I coached him to do after he first got this website up to try and get more traffic to it, he was doing things all wrong. What he was doing is he was going on Facebook and he was just taking the link up here, copying it, going on a Facebook, doctoring up a post on Facebook, slapping the link in there, and then letting it generate whatever it wants, and just he called that good. Not super effective. Why was it not super effective? Because for whatever reason, when you use these share to Facebook things, it actually does a lot better job of orchestrating a post for you because it reads the page better.
Finds the picture.
Exactly.
Grabs the attention.
Yes. Exactly. So that's what I started telling him to do. Is I said, stop doing it that way, man. You're doing it the wrong way. Go to the article when you're ready to promote that article on Facebook. Go to the article and share it instead of doing it the other way around. You see what I'm saying? And have it doctor up this thing because it's going to do a better job of figuring out where the picture is and whatever. Okay? And then you can type whatever you want up there, and then you're golden. Okay?
Is there any way to actually make the post? Metadata sort of thing?
Metadata? There's no metadata included in Facebook posts. I mean, we can type whatever we want in here and tag people and stuff like that.
How does it recognize the graphics?
Facial recognition. I said it earlier.
But if we're going off like the pay, like, are you talking about like?
How does it know what picture to put there?
Yeah.
It ought. So Facebook already knows exactly how to do this specifically from WordPress and looks for the featured image in the blog post. And also the image that's highest up in the article. I'm sorry?
How does it decide which one is the featured image?
Yeah, let's
HTML tells it.
Let's say we have several
Images in the article?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a great question. So, A, the higher up the image, the better. And B, your featured image ends up with specific HTML tags around it that say it's the featured image.
Also, that's when you hit the featured image thing in WordPress.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so the article itself knows that it's a featured image, and since WordPress dominates 40% of the internet now, Facebook realizes, hey, these are the easiest pages to read because they're all structured exactly the same way because they're all made with the same content management system. Okay? So that's why it's beautiful to combine the powers of WordPress with the powers of social media, because they make all of these assumptions and have almost like laid it all out for us the right perfect way.
So each like to share this article items, each one of the Facebook would write its, Twitter its, Google Plus it, or does WordPress Central?
It's reading through the HTML structure of the page to determine what to put here. And since all of these, every HTML page in the whole world has almost the same exact structure, it just looks for them and finds them. So this right here is the URL of the website. Every web page is on a website, and every website has a URL. It smacks that right there. This right here is the title, HTML element called title of the page. Every page in WordPress has one. That's what it knows to grab that from. And then looks like this is probably just the first paragraph in the article. Correct me if I'm wrong. No? Where is it? I'm going to close this now. How does it know? Where's it grabbing this from?
You can customize it in Yoast now.
You customize it in Yoast.
Sometimes it will listen to it, sometimes it won't.
Well, and then WordPress also has the thing called the excerpt. Yeah, usually it will grab it from the excerpt if there is an excerpt. If there's not an excerpt, it will try to just parse the first like X amount of characters from the content, which is the main thing up there, right? You guys getting that?
Okay, the click down there at the bottom for share this image, that's a standard WordPress thing, right?
No, sir, it's not.
So they WordPress somehow connects with Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. Each of those groups sends WordPress Central or whatever that would be.
These.
How we want you to do this?
Yes.
Let me finish asking my question.
Sure.
So you have to add that to your WordPress website, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when the reader clicks it, it goes to their Facebook.
Yes.
Okay.
So all of these social media outlets, rest in peace, Google Plus.
Actually dead now, or you're just still dying?
Still dying. I think you have till April to copy your. Yeah. No, but it will be dead after April, so that's its funeral date. Yeah. So as you can see, what the link down here is it's literally facebook.com/sharer/sharer.php. Interesting. PHP is being used on Facebook as well, which is what WordPress is mostly made of. There's literally no reason to learn PHP, right? We're doing a workshop this fall on PHP. Make sure you sign up for that when we roll that out. It's too early to do it now. Okay, so sorry, I had to get my shameless plug in there. And then notice how we just pass it a query string parameter of you. Damn it, Chewy, every time. It's trash night, okay? Don't judge me. Chewy makes sure I stay on my trash night. All right, so basically it's just a link to the page. So it says, hey, Facebook, I'm passing you a link to this article, which I don't know how they picked you. I don't know what that's representative of, but whatever. Query string parameter of you, and then here's the link to the page that I'm trying to share. Then when you hit that, it actually makes a request to that page to read the page, and then pulls up that dialog, then puts that in there, and it's doing like a whole bunch of crazy stuff at once. We're not going to get into all that. This is not a developer talk. Go ahead.
If you'd like to share, not just to Facebook, but you do that for every, let's say you want to share it to LinkedIn as well. You go into this post again, as opposed to using some.
That's the better way of doing it. That's exactly why they put so much work into building this thing in the first place. Yep.
U for URL, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, but why not just add another 2 characters in there? Just make it URL instead of U.
That's cool for the developer.
Trying to be cryptic. We don't want people to know what we're doing. Get out of here.
So is there any way to customize it? When you click that button, what goes to Facebook?
Nope. Now, you can see what it's about to. It obviously gives you a preview, so you can go back and doctor your article, right, your blog post, before you share it if it's not showing up the way that you want it to. Absolutely, you totally have that capability. And I'm glad he brought that up. Yoast SEO allows you to go over and override some of the attributes like the title and the excerpt and all that stuff. Using Yoast, you can actually go in and manually go change those things to whatever you want if you want to put more work into making it more enticing in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. Overriding the image, I don't think it allows you to do, but if you were to try, I mean, basically just change your featured image or whatever.
If you're the author of the post, should you share it to Facebook too? Or do you want your readers to do that?
I don't think it matters. Sure, I would say why not. But what might be better is if in this case, since the magazine has its own Facebook page, might be better to have to see if the magazine itself has posted it, and if they have, just share theirs, right? Yeah, because that way then they get the kickback from the view too or whatever. But yes, there's nothing preventing anybody from sharing this to their Facebook for whatever reason they want, including if you're the author of the post. Or if this was your restaurant that's being written about. And we'll get to that in a second here too. So we've already determined that this guy is doing a fantastic job of exactly what we came here to learn how to do, which is drive people from social media to the website. And I'll prove that here in a second. So luckily, since he's my client, and I hope he doesn't care that I'm doing this, I didn't tell him I am, but we're good friends. I don't know, it's just website numbers. He should be proud of the fact that his website's getting a bunch of views, right? So, yeah. We'll jump into my Google Analytics here, and I'll show you the analytics from his website. And then we'll go to his Facebook profile and look at the posts that he's put up recently, and then we'll compare the posts and how many views each post has, and compare it to the numbers and analytics on his website to see how well each post did at driving traffic to the actual website. You're all very welcome. I'm down to lead this group forever, but man, we need to get some more help. Like, and for the record, if I do stop leading this group, I will still come back and do talks. Organizing it's a feat that's more difficult than you guys probably realize. All right. Well, when you have to do it by yourself, it's more difficult than you realize. Oh, that's not what we want. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, these are his analytics. Let's go to Facebook. We should do an SEO talk for this group here soon, and when we do that, we'll go deep into all that. But to answer your question very shortly, it's how quickly people leave your site after they arrive to it. The higher that number is, the worse it is.
Oh, false.
Yes, that's not false. That is 100% true. You want your bounce rate to be as low as possible.
Now, if you got your phone number right up top and you want them to call.
Google doesn't know that that's what they're going there to do.
I know.
So, I mean, I know what you're saying. There are reasons why people do that, but better find some other way to hook them into staying on that website longer. But with that said, though, that also drives people to keep going back to your website for the same exact reason all the time. So, yeah. All right, cool. Let's look up Food and Spirits Magazine. Come on, Wi-Fi. Let's go. All right, so here's some posts. We're not going to focus on these ones that aren't getting that much attention. It's not really worth our time. I'm just going to scroll through this feed until I see a post that got a lot of engagement, and then we'll go look at the numbers that correlate with that. Hopefully to an article that's on his website, which it looks like this is. Maybe. No, never mind. That's a Facebook event. No, these are all Facebook events. No. See how effective this is? Yep. Yeah. You see donuts, you're like, ooh, click right away.
The good news is it'll get assigned to you, not us.
Have you ever went to a t-shirt site and then it follows you for the next week?
Yep. That's because of Google and Google AdSense.
Developer podcasts recommend not to do that, but sites still do it.
Okay, here's one, but I only got two. Recently, he hasn't been doing as much of this as I would like him to. We'll find an example of a good one. Maybe a better idea is just to go find giant bumps in his traffic and then see where they came from. We'll also be doing a talk soon for this group, specifically the admin meetup, over Google Analytics and how to dig into it and how to, I guess, analyze your numbers and figure certain things out or whatever, which will be part of the SEO, obviously, but specifically we'll be diving into that quite a bit. We're going to change our date range, and I kind of want to go back a lot, actually, because I want to just look for giant spikes. And this is going to take a little bit because it's doing it every day, so this thing is going to look crazy. Boom. Look at this guy right here. That's what we want. Show me the goods. 35? That's more than 35. 230 on January 27th, 2018. So now what we can do is we can go look at, somebody are helping me remember that, January 27th, 2018. 2018. January, what did we say? 27th. Okay. All I did was double click it. You give it a start and end point. We're just picking one day. Boom. Okay. And when you only pick one day, notice how it automatically changes it to hourly. That's nice. And look at this giant spike, and it's right at 5 o'clock. So it's not even an all-day thing. This even further like screams, hey, this was a post on social media that a bunch of people started going to. Why? How do I know that?
It's 5 a.m. What are they
Yeah, but you're right, because it happened all at once. But what did we just talk about? What was I talking about specifically earlier?
Certain times you're more likely to get hits.
No. You're close. It has to do with time. Remember, how does it grade? How does it dictate what score it gives to your Facebook post? Timing is one of them, right? So as this post degraded in age, so did its ability to show up on people's Facebook feeds. That's literally all the window that you get. Is that surprising to anyone? I mean, we're only looking at 2 hours. That's crazy, right? You could have put something up. You probably think, oh, yeah, I posted something earlier this morning. You know, if somebody gets on this afternoon, they'll probably see it. Nope. Forget about it.
Who's up at that time?
Exactly.
I'm just
What do
making
you
an
do
example.
first thing in the morning?
Yeah, go to the bathroom.
Check your Facebook page, right?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Check your email or something. I know I check my website every morning.
All right, so let's validate this. Let's go to acquisition and social and overview and see how much traffic came from social. What is this? Network or what? Hold on, what's going on? Let's just go to overview. How about that? Surprising amount of direct traffic. But I think Facebook posts do count as direct traffic, though. I could be wrong. I think it does, though. This could just be an attack, actually. In all honesty, this does happen.
It would almost look that way.
5 a.m., yeah.
Was it? I thought it was PM.
No, it was AM.
It was AM?
That's why I said, who gets up at that time and looks at a restaurant?
Yeah, it might have been an attack, actually.
That's when the staff at the restaurant are going home.
It might have been an attack. Let's go back.
They're in China, they want American food.
Let's go back and look again, actually. I feel like that was an attack.
There was a second spike.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go find. Is this by day? $53. This isn't enough. Dang it. That's the only problem with Facebook, is that I find good examples of this, but I found them like 2 years ago. Those posts are long gone.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, just trust me. What he'll do is he'll take articles that have really enticing pictures of really good food that they actually took a real photographer to the restaurant to take a picture of the food, because that's part of what the people pay for when they get the article put in. And then he shares it on Facebook. And then what will happen is not only will people see it when they're scrolling and click on it because it's food and he'll post it at the right time, but then also the owners of the restaurant will share it. Okay, so we already talked about that too, right? And then anybody that they know will also share it too. Be like, hey, you know, Zach and Linda's restaurant that they opened up, you know, whatever, a few months ago, look, here's an article about it. And so they're going to go share it with a bunch of people too. So you get a lot of this natural sharing because people like to see small business owners succeed. And a lot of the restaurants that invest in this are small business owners. Go away. Cool. So that's what he's doing. I'm not gonna sit here and fish around for analytics all day. As a matter of fact, if I was smart, I would have found some validating
that kind of
evidence earlier.
To me, anyway, would Google Analytics get faked out by a brute force attack trying to?
What do you mean by faked out? How though? There's like
I don't know, just like a lot of kids like from the class to the night. Don't use WP admin as that last segment of the website in order to log in.
Sometimes these attacks are not
just by a lot of hits.
Listen,
hold on, time out. Just let me talk. So sometimes attacks are not just brute force attempts to log into your website. There are other forms of attacks that can happen online. A lot of times what can happen is that they'll get bots to hit like a bunch of different pages on a website to get your SEO numbers and analytics to bump up in Google Analytics, because they realize the small business owners are looking at these analytics, and then they'll go look at the referrals, and the referrals will be from some weird websites. And then what are you going to do? When you see some weird website that you've never heard of, and you just got 50 referrals from that website, what are you going to do?
Click on the website.
You're going to go to the website. Guess what's on the website? Malware. Yes. So not all attacks are direct brute force attacks to try and break into your website. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I'm not going to go and try to find more evidence of this, but just trust me, this is how it works. And plus, we're kind of running out of time, and I want to give plenty of time for questions. So, yeah, questions? Do you guys need some ideas on how you could use this to your advantage? Hopefully you guys have already started churning up some ideas of your own.
Actually, I have a different problem. I make computers by day, but on the weekends I have a hobby that's a business.
Okay.
The hobby is mineral specimens.
Mineral specimens.
Yeah, of course, yeah, right. Lapidary, where I count, if you know the term. What's interesting is most of the people refuse to use the internet.
Come again?
They don't really get it. What happens is people in the business generally are retirees. They don't really like using the internet in any form. Most of them, if you're lucky, have a phone. So the one thing that I came up with, the way you have images and can run images, people like to look at pictures of minerals. So that gives you some idea of where I can put pictures of minerals that I sell and post them. But what's interesting is you're trying to get this traffic, which to some extent doesn't exist because people actually refuse to use it. It's something to do with just the nature of the hobby.
What percentage of people do you believe are refusing to use the internet?
I say at least 50%.
I think you're absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. I think if you did some hardcore research, you would find that's not the case. And I would think maybe you yourself have been hesitant to jump on the internet bandwagon and somehow biasing your numbers. I'll be completely honest with you and tell you that I realize that there are still a large number of people that refuse to use the internet. However, they are the extreme minority of people. We are now living in 2019, and the vast majority of people have already conformed. As a matter of fact, I believe that the average age of everybody in this room is sheer evidence enough to show that not only are older people that may not have been using the internet 10 years ago are now not only using the internet, they're now building on the internet. So
that's true, but I'm just saying from what I observed, I also sell shows. And I ask, are you on the internet? Vendors and stuff like that. And there's a lot of lag in the whole thing.
Well, but now you're talking about something different. Now you're talking about an industry that may thrive more in one market than another. And I would not argue with you on the fact that perhaps your market does better at shows because people like to go and see these things firsthand in front of their face and actually interact with them firsthand. Absolutely. So I would agree with that perhaps focusing on shows may be more advantageous to you than focusing on a website because of the sheer nature of that industry and that market. Totally valid argument, and I would not argue that for a second. However, with that said, to make the assumption based off of that it's not worth your time to have a website that shows your stuff off, I think would be a huge mistake and a blunder, because although the vast majority of the people that goes to those shows may not use the internet that much, I think you'd be surprised by how many actually do. And I think you would basically be saying, well, even though that's only, let's say only 30% of the people from that show are likely in any way, shape, or form to go to your website because they don't use the internet that much, that still may be I don't know, based on I don't know how many people go to these shows that you're talking about, but I'm guessing it's somewhere in the realm of like 40 to 80 people. And so now you're talking about potentially 8 to 20 potential customers or viewers that could end up on your website. Now, is your website going to draw a lot of traffic? Are you going to end up with hundreds of views on your website per day? Not likely, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that invalidates the need for a website. Because I don't get very much traffic on my website, but that traffic may be more meaningful, and I might convert a lot more on each viewer. So that just means that my website doesn't get as much random traffic, if that makes any sense.
Right. And in fact, I'm proceeding that way. I'm just saying from what I've seen in general, that a lot of people who are involved in this hobby just generally seem to be electronics adverse.
Do you have reasons of your own for your own personal gain to incentivize them to actually go to your website?
Oh yes, and I'm not saying that's a target I'm looking at, because I know a lot of vendors are not going to the internet.
Okay, but you're saying you want them to go to your website because somehow that makes your life easier, or is a convenience to either them or you, or will somehow potentially increase your revenue or something along those lines, right? Sure. So what you need to do is actually be more creative about giving them reasons to actually visit the website, right? So perhaps you offer deals that are only available through your website. Or maybe what you need to do is get a better camera or better camera equipment and actually get into regularly taking high magnification photos of these minerals that you collect and putting them on your website, and then sharing articles from your website to social media, because I'll bet you these people are using social media, even though they might not like, because whether or not you realize this, the Facebook app on your phone is the internet. Just because it doesn't say Chrome or Safari doesn't mean it's not the internet. It absolutely is the internet. It's just an app, just like a browser is. They're just engaging with the internet through a different application other than a browser. These are all things to think about. And if you're not opening your mind and thinking about these kinds of things, every day that goes by, you're missing out on potential revenue.
Do you collect email addresses from people who go to your shows? They don't generally.
Engage in email?
Engage in email, no, they don't. They just see a rock, they like it, and they buy it. And sometimes you wonder, why are they buying it when there's something right next to them that's even better, but for the same price. But just don't never figure out why people buy things.
Well, so are you saying that a lot of this purchasing mechanic that happens in this industry is kind of spur of the moment, in-person buying?
Yeah, and a lot of it's compulsive. A lot of people who collect minerals will never leave a show without buying one.
Right.
And they say, I don't have one of these, I'll go buy this one.
So this goes back to what Zach was talking about earlier, by drawing up a persona of the person. Now what you need to do is sit there and think about, my average person that walks by my table at these shows, are they even engaging with minerals at all after they leave this show?
Right.
That's a question. That's a valid question. You may make the assumption that because they're at this show, that their whole life revolves around this, but it's very likely that they just like going to shows, and when they're not at shows, they don't even think about this stuff.
Oh, I mean, I realize that's
right.
I'm actually a show chairman of the local nonprofit show that we do.
Right,
and so and I'm trying to get people to come in from the standpoint who never visited a show and may develop an interest in something like this.
Gotcha.
In fact, that's one of my main reasons is to start driving traffic for the club.
Okay, so then what you need to do is start writing blog articles that explain to people that don't or that aren't into it, and translate, right, in layman's terms or whatever. Hey, top 5 reasons why it's valuable to get into collecting rare minerals or something like that, right? I don't know anything about it, but if I saw an article that said, hey, somebody made $10,000 last year off of collecting and trading and whatever minerals, I might be like, no kidding? Or like, hey, did you realize that Nebraska is one of the top 5 places to find rare minerals because of whatever reason. I don't know that this stuff is true. I'm just making stuff up.
The reverse.
Well, I'm just. I mean, it's just an example because we live here. I mean, it could be any state. But what I'm saying is that, like, if you wrote articles that are like this, now you're appealing to those specific people. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, we're drawing personas, and we're trying to make sure that the content that we create on the blog aims at the target that we're creating by writing and creating those personas.
Thanks for the suggestion. We have a show in 2 weeks down in Lincoln, and I'll try to take a little statistics to get the people tell me if they're new to the show or the hobby.
I think that's a great idea, and I also think it would be another great idea if you do already have a WordPress site to create something, anything on your site, and then try to see how, like, figure out 3 different ways that you can get people to go engage with that content from the show and see if that works. Perhaps it's something that you entice them to do while they're at the show from their phones or something. Give that an experiment, and then get on Google Analytics the next day or the day after that and see how well it worked.
Take a picture with the rock. Post it on there.
Don't forget there's another generation.
That's right.
Well, the other thing too is that I realize every kid likes rocks. Right. They outgrow it, but every kid, I've never seen a kid who does not like a rock until they grow out of it.
I was going to say, do you have a YouTube channel? That's very big.
I'm just starting slowly getting together with this because I run also the club, and I know exactly what you talk about. Getting people to motivate other people who are supposed to be in the group with you to.
You have to incentivize it. They're not going to do it on their own. But if you give them a reason, if you say, hey, we're doing this drawing for this rock right here, all you got to do is go on your phone to this URL and fill out this form and submit.
Is to get help in a nonprofit, which is it's only basically me with this stuff, is really like pulling teeth. People love the benefits of a nonprofit going to a club or whatever, but they don't really want to do the work.
I wouldn't know anything about that at all.
So I work with one of my clients does prairie preservation, which is almost exciting as rocks for kind of like the broader public, right? And they've had a lot of the struggles that you're talking about. One of the things they found works really well for them is gamification, right? So they've got a point system like what Rob was talking about with